What I am presenting today is a coaching of ethics, and it is dealing with the University of North Carolina case study scandal. First off, my definition of ethics is to hold others accountable to the moral values by which we live by. I will expect myself, my staff, and my athletes to embody ethics and to make the best decisions based on the ethical standards of honesty and doing what is right. My goals of this presentation are to present the facts about what happened with the scandal at the University of North Carolina, how I would have handled it, and to challenge others to think about how they would have handled it. The ethical case study that I am going to be presenting today deals with the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and the student athletes being enrolled into easy classes to stay eligible. The fraud was first brought up in 2010, but it has been going on for 18 years. The ethical dilemma is that student athletes in particular were taking fake paper classes and that advisors were scheduling them into these classes. The advisors knew that these classes had little to no legitimate work to be completed until the final paper at the end of the class. Artificially high grades were then assigned to keep the athletes eligible. In the 8th-month investigation conducted by Weinstein, employees have since been fired and others have been disciplined. The report estimates that 3,100 students took these paper classes. It was discovered that the former head football coach, John Bunting, who admitted later, knew about the paper classes and chose to turn the other way. Butch Davis, who followed John Bunting, knew about the situation as well. The report announced that athletes in a wide range of sports were involved. The assistant to the department chair of the African American Studies program, Debbie Crowder, created the paper classes out of sympathy for athletes and other students who were not the best and the brightest. Counselors actively used paper classes, calling them GPA boosters, and that at least 2 counselors, one in football, suggested to Crowder what grade an athlete needed to receive to be able to continue to play. The report shows that during Bunting's years as the head coach, there was a steady rise in his enrollment of football players in the paper classes. There were many members of the athletic staff who knew about the paper classes. Former football player Michael McAdoo was even forced into majoring in African American studies. Because of the athletic programs were involved, this is how the case study pertains to me as a head coach and how I would have handled the situation differently. As a head coach, I believe that academics is a student's primary focus. If athletics do not work out, everyone must have a skill to be able to be successful in the workforce and a contributing member of society. Very few athletes play in the professional ranks, so most have to find a job that pays a decent salary to support him or herself. Students prepare for careers by concentrating on academics and getting a degree. First, as a coach, I would make sure that the advisors scheduled my athletes into classes that were valuable, of substance, and required for university credits or for my athletes' majors. I would make it a point to remind them that classes are about substance and learning, not just about getting the easy grade. I would review all of my athletes' schedules and make sure that nothing stands out as being abnormal. I would make sure that my athletes understand my expectations, that they are here to learn first and then to play. If I notice that a majority of my athletes are in the same class, I would then look further into it to see what the class was about and determine why my athletes were taking the class. If the class were a paper class, I would talk to my athletes and stress the value of learning and the fact that they were being cheating out of their educations. I would meet with the individuals who created the class, the professor, the academic advisor, and the athletic director and see if they sanctioned the class and why. If the classes continued, I would then have to discuss the situation with the president of the university. If the university placed its status, economics, or politics above academics and refused to change, I would need to reassess my future with the organization and be willing to move to a college or university where education is the priority. While education is a priority, athletics is also an important consideration because I've been a college athlete interested in both academics and sports. After 2 seasons, I had to retire due to injury. While I enjoyed the sport, it is fortunate that my focus was on academics. Academics are always first. I encourage all coaches to really think about what is important to them as coaches and how they would have handled the situation. I hope that no matter what position they hold, those who work in a university setting always make decisions based on what is best for the students. Taking on ethical stance, people must be willing to change the accepted standard. If that is not possible, they must be willing to leave an institution that values sports over what benefits their student athletes. The athletes are the ones who ultimately are going to suffer. Yes, eligibility is important, but what is even more important is that the student athletes are first, students first, and athletes second. If students have to work hard in school, they will be able to translate that hard work into their sports. Head coaches should want and encourage their athletes to be well-rounded and succeed in both academics and athletics. If a coach doesn't stand behind his or her own ethical values, why is he or she even a coach at all, regardless of the institution? Sometimes it's better to lose and do the right thing than to win and do the wrong thing.